Greetings friends, it's Victor here and welcome to another video. Unfortunately, the topic of today's video is not a happy topic, but I do think that is worth talking about, and that is specifically the anti-trans legislation that is being passed in state legislatures across the US. This legislation overwhelmingly targets trans youth, and so I just want to kind of talk about that a little bit. Oh yes, and please don't forget to like and subscribe. So first of all, there is a lot of anti-trans legislation kind of going around that hasn't yet been passed, but that is coming up in state legislatures and is being proposed. So I think it's somewhere around 130 something bills that have been proposed at this point across all 50 US states. Now, there are 4 states that have actually passed anti-trans legislation, that is Mississippi, Tennessee, Arkansas, and most recently, Alabama. Now, these 4 states have passed bills that basically say that transgender youth are not allowed to play on sports teams that align with their gender. I would like to note that the verbiage used in these bills is extremely outdated and it looks like it's trying to be transphobic, and no one put any thought into the way that these things were worded in terms of being up to date with current terminology, for example, biological gender rather than sex assigned at birth. Aside from these sports bills that have already been passed, there have been several bills proposed that would basically make it illegal for doctors to provide medical treatment related to gender transition to minors, and in some cases to people younger than 21 years old. Now, most of these bills have been under the guise of protecting transgender youth in terms of not letting them pursue any kind of gender treatment or transition. I'd just like to say that this is absolutely absurd just because, one, transgender youth tend to have substantially higher rates of suicide and depression than non-transgender youth, and a lot of that is related to transitional elements, and so by essentially taking away the possibility of any kind of puberty blocker or transition for youth, that is basically upping their risk factors for both suicide and depression. It is also worth noting that none of these laws are founded in any science or grounded in the majority medical opinion or WPATH, which is the basically worldwide organization for that are basically the experts on trans healthcare. So these laws are really not based on anything except for the legislators' fears and theoretical what ifs of things that have not even happened. Additionally, as there continues to be more and more research done on the topic of transgender issues and transgender youth, research continually points to the fact that when children and adolescents have access to adequate gender-related healthcare, that they are much more likely to turn out okay and be okay and, not commit suicide and not, be massively depressed and repressed. So, yeah, it's important for people to be able to have access to the care they need. Now, of course, I'm not saying that we need to force any kind of gender transition on a child. Obviously, that's not what I'm saying. But in the cases where children are adamant and no, for sure, puberty blockers at the very least are a very, very helpful thing. And there's been research that has shown again and again and again that puberty blockers are really, really helpful for transgender kids. So they have more time to figure out who they are and what they want to do and who they want to be as they grow up. Alright, so hopefully this video ended up being pretty short. I'm gonna try and pare it down to just the bare minimum because there's so much to say and so much frustration, but basically the short version is anti-trans bills are bad. They're being made by people who don't necessarily have the best interest of trans kids at heart, and that's a problem. Okay, well, I hope this was a good awareness of what's going on in the world or the country for you, so okay. Until next time, see y'all later.